G'day, it's Shane Dowling here from the website and YouTube channel Kangaroo Court of Australia. Now I'm here with Jimmy Dowling and Franz Dowling. And for people who are wondering, yes, Jimmy Dowling's my uncle and Franz Dowling is my cousin. And we're here to talk about the new laws, the hate speech laws. Jimmy's been charged under the new hate speech laws and Franz was raided at one point. I'm just going to read out the basic of the law so people know and understand it. It's a Queensland Consolidated Acts, Criminal Code 1899, Section 52DA, a recital, distribution, publication or display of prohibited expressions. And the two prohibited expressions, which say at the end of the Act, are from the river to the sea and globalised intifada. And if you say them as per Section 1, if you say them in a way that might reasonably be expected to cause a member of the public to feel menaced, harassed or offended, commits an offence, unless the person has a reasonable excuse. And in Section 2, it covers some of the excuses, which is if you're saying it for an artistic reason, religious, educational, historical, legal, or law enforcement purpose. The one that covers me as a journalist is if the publication is of a fair and accurate report of an event or matter of public interest. Obviously, this is of a public interest at the moment, especially because it's a new law and people are wondering whether it's actually legal under the Australian Constitution and whether the law will actually stand once it's challenged in court. Now, I'll pass over to you, Franz, first, because you were actually raided by the police. Can you tell us your part of the story?
Yeah, so I guess I'll start at the beginning. I'd woken up. It was the Friday before this new law was passed, and I'd woken up, had my breakfast, opened my phone, and first article popped up from the Guardian was that this law was about to be passed, and that these very simple little sayings were going to be banned in any context, in any place, and yeah, I could not believe it. I could not believe it. I'd heard whispers of it, but didn't realize it was a actual real possibility. And so then and there, I was kind of filled with this kind of feeling of I have to do something. This is crazy. This is insanity. And so I talked to a couple of my housemates and said, "Hey, I'm just going to grab an old bed sheet and spray paint." This simple saying that I just came up with, it's not too clever. It's had the words that you couldn't say on it. From the beach to the sea, come get us Crisafulli. Crisafulli being our premier here, who came up with these laws, and so they were all happy with the idea. And I said, whatever happens, I'll take whatever comes, and won't involve anyone else in the house, kind of thing. And it was a month out from the due date of my first child, who's just been born a week ago now, and I've been kind of stepping back from any activism and stuff, but this seemed like a very simple, easy way to resist, I guess, and I didn't know what to expect. I didn't actually think anything would happen, to be honest. But I slapped that on the side of the house with a couple little symbols on it, with a peace symbol and a cross symbol representing the faith of this community, but also the peace sign to just show, look, we think this statement is a very peaceful, it's a call for peace and non-violence, which is our philosophy here. And so for a bit of context, I live in a community house called Dorothy Day House, where we put up homeless people and refugees, and we're a little bit of a hub of activity. And it's been going strong for maybe 10 years now, this place. So yeah, anyway, that's where I put the banner. The following Wednesday, the law was passed, and I heard the first arrest had happened of the fella out the front of Parliament who had tried to explain the law and the saying on the mic, and they arrested him for it. And that was when I realised, oh, there's a very real chance I will be charged for this. It wasn't until 10 days after that, so it was a Friday once again. It had been 2 weeks since I'd put the banner up, and the worst I was expecting was a knock on the door and to be arrested, taken to the watch house, or just charged on their court date. And I definitely wasn't expecting what happened, which was a full-on raid of our peaceful community house by a full counter-terrorist squad. So there was 7 officers with their guns, fully uniformed, bulletproof vests, came bashing through the house at about 7:30 a.m. So my wife and I were still asleep. A few of us were still asleep. A couple of their house guests had left for work early. I'm very thankful for, because um, we have refugees here who've, suffered a bit of trauma and that kind of thing. And the last thing I wanted to do was involve them in anything like this. I didn't expect this to come upon us, to be honest. But they had left the front door unlocked when they'd left, and so the police could come right in and bash down our bedroom's doors, screaming, "Open the door now! Open up now, or we'll break the doors down!" So that's what we went to, in a state of shock, and they detained us all in the lounge room. They led us to the lounge room, detained us there, and um, told us that they had a warrant to seize every single computer and phone in the house that had been signed off by a magistrate. Um, and their reasoning being that they had put the banner up, but also taken photos of the banner and posted it on social media. And so the very act of having a photo is an offence. A photo of the banner is an offence. The fact that all of the devices in the house may contain a photo of that banner was enough for them to get a magistrate to sign seizing everything in the house. I had huge discussions with them. As you can imagine, it got pretty emotional. There was some tears. Everyone was a bit shocked, in shock, I think. And I told them it was all me. I confessed to everything then. And they said, "You don't need my phone. You don't need my laptop. Um, this is what happened. This is what I did." Uh, but it became very apparent that they weren't even there to charge me. They were there to get my phone and my laptop, so that they could have access to every email I've ever sent in my life. Every that's what they're going after. The violation, I guess, and the fear tactics were in use there, that they've been using on protesters lately. It's pretty scary times, but even people I know who've had this happen to them didn't expect this to me, to ask for such a simple little thing, I guess. So I was not prepared for any of this. But they essentially told me, if you give us your laptop, phone, and passwords, we won't take anyone else's. And they said, if you refuse to give us your passport or your phone, laptop, we will take everyone's phone and laptop. And so after a lot of big discussions where I just had big conversations with a lot of them, where I was just like, "What are you guys doing? This is not. You can walk away. You know this is right now. This is terrifying times. This is surely what you guys signed up for." But they obviously have all this counterterrorism to use, so it was full on die hard kind of, bashing through the house, and a chance to use this training, I guess, on peaceful people. And yeah, it's pretty scary stuff. Like my phone and my laptop, pretty shaken. I had a lot of media interviews that day though, and yeah, I tried to just keep my cool and stay collected. I think as a house we had a big debrief about it, and it took a while until we felt at peace. And we were detained for almost 2 hours in my lounge room, and didn't actually know what the police were doing for a lot of that time as well. They were downstairs, and no, it was this crazy feeling of like, I didn't know. You don't know what it's like until you experience it, where you're just very unsettled in your own home after something. So you almost have this psychological spiral happening, where I wanted to burn that. that. But thankfully, we all felt so. The police, so following Wednesday, I believe, that the police came and gave me back their laptop and phone. They kept the phone for a day longer because they said they hadn't finished off it. They needed to assess the evidence. when they'd taken them, I said, "What reason could you possibly have for taking this? You have everything. You have the confession, you have the banner, you have everything." And the only thing they could come up with was could have proof that someone else was involved in the theft. Said that's so stupid. That's beyond stupid. That was all they had. That was honestly all that. Uh, it's pretty insane. Yeah. The motivation that order had obviously come from one who was present um, at raid, and I think what they're trying to do is probably, I think one of his belief is raid and take the devices of as many protesters, kind of connect the dots and get all your contacts to get your kind of chat or whatever. They try to connect who's who and really just instill this fear uh, upon peaceful protesters and peaceful. It's a huge thing that they seem to be doing at the moment. Uh, so yeah, that's more or less the story. And they didn't even charge me. They came back a couple of days later and told me to sign a written warning. So it's a formal warning that I did anything along those lines, just charge me immediately, no questions asked. They could have done anyway. So in a way, that kind of annoyed me more than anything. I was with getting charged. I'm pretty hopeful that these laws will be thrown out by the end of the year, by the Supreme Court and that kind of thing. Um, yeah, I had no problem with fighting this kind of thing. I am kind of glad though at the same time of dates come up. We've had our firstborn now. He's happy in health. Little bubble here now. New phase of life, I guess.
Yep.
Yeah, hadn't intended to get into all of that new, but what happened happened. Yeah, it's just a testament to flying time, I guess. Yeah.
Yep. So, Jimmy, you want to tell us your story in relation to being charged?
Yeah, sure. We've group of us have been going to Bowen Defence, which makes weapons of mass destruction, including nuclear weapons. But they fast tracked 1,000 missiles to Israel on October 7th, 2023, and helped with the genocide in Gaza and the total destruction of Gaza. And so we've been a group of us have been fighting the arms dealers for a long time. I've been involved in arms dealers, merchants of death for over 40 years. So when this ridiculous law was introduced, I went to Dowling as usual. We've been going there every Wednesday for an hour at lunchtime, 12 to 1, and held a started to dreaded work on Brisbane, from the river to the whatever. Brisbane will be free of Boeing, not Palestine will be free, but Brisbane will be free of Boeing. And sure enough, the Boeing people called the police. The police came and interviewed me, and the first officer said, "You know, what does your sign mean?" And I explained how it meant that from the river, which was just in front of us over there, right out to the sea or the ocean, the Brisbane would be free of Boeing. And we didn't want Boeing in Brisbane or anywhere in the vicinity, or any arms dealers for that matter. Then he asked me, "Do you know what these words were first used? When these words were first used?" And I said, "Oh well, probably 10,000 years ago when they invented English. Someone went and take my canoe from the whatever to the whatever." And he tried to get me to more or less infer that somehow connecting to something more political. So anyhow, eventually they arrested me, took me to the watch house, and I was interrogated by the anti-terrorism squad for an hour or so. just two guys, similar to the squad that raided my son Franz's house. And once again, they tried to get me to incriminate myself. But I was happy to. Eventually, I was happy to talk about the genocide that Boeing and other arms dealers were responsible for in Gaza and elsewhere. Yeah, then they let me go. Basically, gave me a piece of paper to say come back to court a week later. And I was charged using prohibited words. So I went to court a week or so later, and I went before the magistrate, said I wanted to plead insanity, that the law was insane, and that anyone who took it seriously was a bit sus as well. Well, the magistrate misunderstood me at first and said, well, that's your right to do that. Have you seen a psychiatrist? And I explained, no, I'm not pleading insanity for myself. I'm saying the law is insane. So she said, oh, well, I'll enter a plea that you'll contest the matter. He gave me another court date, which is next week, back to court next Wednesday.
Is it next Wednesday next week or this Wednesday coming?
This Wednesday coming, yes.
So in 2 days then. So
That's it, yeah.
people watching, they can rock up to court and support you if they want to. What was I going to say? Now, I've done a couple articles and I'll just bring them up on my screen. I did one when Liam Parry, he was the one who was arrested outside Parliament House. Do you know, in relation to him, were you charged the same day or a couple of days later? Do you know, or you don't know?
Exactly 1 week later.
1 week later.
Yeah, he was charged a few hours of the law being passed through Parliament, and that was on a Wednesday. And we go into Boeing every Wednesday, so a week later I was at Boeing as my sign. Yeah.
So I wanted to, won't go into yours too much, otherwise the coppers will use it and try and twist it. Potentially, I won't say they will. There's another article, and I've done it on David Crisafulli. Now, Senator James McGrath, who's a federal senator, he's used the banned phrase to promote himself and David Crisafulli and the LNP. And I'll read what it says on there, not the phrase. I won't say the phrase again. I've said it at the beginning when I read out the law. There's no need for me to say it, but it's one of the banned phrases. And it's got a picture of Premier David Crisafulli, and it says Queensland first to ban the banned phrase. Then it says, that's the leadership and courage only an LNP government can deliver. Then it's got fighting for Queensland, Senator James McGrath. Now, there's no legal purpose to say that what they've done. There's no educational purpose. And they're not media. Senator James McGrath was on his Facebook page. They've deliberately used that phrase to promote the LNP and Senator James McGrath, and they've used a picture of David Crisafulli. That is a prima facie, on the prima facie case, is a strong prima facie case to have them charged, or at least Senator James McGrath, and potentially the Premier too, because unless he can prove that he had no knowledge of it, that's still up on the internet. Yet they're allowed to use the phrase to promote themselves, and anyone who says the phrase is promoting something in general, quite in previous, it was promoting Israel, or the Palestinians fight in Gaza, etc. So they're using it to promote something. In this case, they're using it to promote a political party and a politician. So that's still up there. Now, there's a whole heap of questions that raises. Number one, that was posted on February 9th this year, which is a month before the law was enacted, roughly. But it raises a question, it's still up there. So are they in breach of the law now? Did they have an obligation to take it down? Number two, the reason the law was brought in because it offends people, makes them feel unsafe, apparently. Predominantly Jewish people, obviously, or all Jewish people. But before the law was enacted, the people still would have been offended and felt unsafe. So they were freely using that to promote themselves when they knew the law was making, I knew that phrase was making people feel unsafe or offended. So they were happy to offend people and make them feel unsafe to promote themselves. Then when the law was brought in, they've still kept that up there. What do you make of all that?
Oh, well, as I said, to magistrate, the law itself is insane, and there's no logic in any of this, what's going on. Obviously, the senator was acting just as illegally as myself or Franz. That's indisputable fact. He posted those words for his own benefit, and we posted them for purpose of free speech or exposing the arms dealers, crimes and arms dealers. And because we are considered to be politically incorrect, unlike themselves, we get charged and they don't. It's obviously just a farce. The whole thing is just a farce.
Now,
Yeah, I got something to say on that as well
yep,
because the police called me a couple hours after the raid, the detective constable, senior constable, and he said, we had got immediately media attention, and it had photo of the banner had gone viral on social media immediately after the raid, and so he contacts me within 2 hours and says, "You should tell people who are sharing that photo that they're committing an offence sharing that photo." And I just kind of laughed him off and hung up and stuff. But a lot of people who were also criticizing us on social media were sharing in their criticism and saying, "Oh, look at these idiots," you know. So they're committing an offence too, and so obviously he's committing an offence. Yeah, it's crazy, but also nobody knows. Everyone's so confused. Even the police, when they were here, they wrote on the warrant of things they were seizing. They had to write the banner, and they had to write what was written on the banner on the warrant. And I said to him when he wrote it down, I said, "Hey, you should be arrested for that." And he kind of panicked a bit. Like I could tell he didn't know. He was like, "Oh no, no, it's a legal document. It's a legal document." But the stupidity of it, like they don't know. Everyone's kind of in this weird, confused thing of, "Oh, am I allowed to say it in this context? Am I allowed?" Yeah, it's pretty bizarre.
well, actually, if you go to the actual act, what is it? It says one of the reasons you can say it is for legal or law enforcement purpose. So that's actually covered.
Yeah.
But like you said, people don't know. At one point, I live at Coolangatta, which is the bottom right-hand corner of Queensland. You can't go any more southeast than Coolangatta. So I Googled a river in North Queensland and came up with the Daintree, and I was going to put on social media from the Daintree River to the Coolangatta Sea, Shane Dowling will always be free. But I decided not to because I didn't want them taking my laptop and mobile phone because that would have pissed me off because that would have meant I would have had to go spend a lot of money to just keep on publishing because that's the main tool I use to publish. So I let that ride, but that is the thing. A lot of people on social media are coming up with different terms now, which push the boundary. And I suppose that really gets back to the John Farnham song they used the other day for that. What do they call it? Crowd flash mob or whatever. John Farnham song says it says like a river to the sea, which is very close to the prohibited phrase. Yet that's allowed, so it becomes ridiculous, the whole law. But I'll wind it up there. I just wanted to mention one thing, Jimmy. You're representing yourself. We spoke about that. You're not doing any crowdfunding?
No, I don't need any money to represent myself. Just go into court and speak out what I believe, and go home, hopefully.
That's right. Can get up to 2 years jail. But I also should mention, was it Liam Parry? I'll just bring up his exact name so I don't get it wrong. Yeah, Liam Parry. He's been charged. He was the first charge. You were charged, Jimmy, and we know 20 other people were charged on the weekend with 21 offences. So at least 22 people we know of who have been charged. There could have been others for all we know. They just haven't hit the media yet. So that means the legal system is going to get a pretty big test. And I'm of the opinion that you could be first cab off the rank there, Jimmy, because you are representing yourself. It tends to could go a bit quicker than Liam Parry, who last I checked or last I saw in the media was looking at crowdfunding for pro bono lawyers or something along those lines. So if he gets a legal team, that tends to slow the proceedings down a bit because they need to be briefed and they need to coordinate their diaries with the judges and all that sort of thing. So you could end up being the first cab off the rank simply because you are self-representing. Is there anything else you just wanted to add?
No, not that I can think of.
Well, other than that, I'll just say I'll get this video up on Tuesday because you'll be at court for a mention. It's only a mention, but on Wednesday, the 29th of April in Brisbane there, Jimmy. Is that correct?
That's right, yeah. It's Wednesday, yes, that's it.
So if people are around and they want to drop in and support Jimmy, they can. Other than that, we'll do another video later down the track potentially once we got better indication of where you're at, Jimmy.
Okay, no worries.
Other than that, thank you for your time, both Franz and Jimmy.
Yeah. Thanks, cuz.
No worries. Thanks for watching the video. And yes, there was sound issues, and I'll try and get them fixed before we do another interview with Jimmy later down the track because we'll keep on following this story to its conclusion. And I'm an independent journalist and I'm 100% crowdfunded from viewers like yourself. And I've been running a campaign over the last 20 odd weeks to make sure I can keep on doing the work I'm doing. So, and I'll put the details of that campaign below this video on YouTube. So please read that and support if you can. And please do your bit to help shine a light on corruption and share this video on social media. And please hit the like and subscribe button and notification button. That way you get notified when I publish new videos. Other than that, thank you for your time and have a good day.